Hey Phantom, how's it going? So today we are going to be doing a request video. This is a video that's been asked of me in the comments section below, so hope you enjoy. This video is going to be my runs of all time, my favorite runs on characters, on comics of all time. These are the stories that I really enjoyed by the writers that I enjoyed the most. Now, if you've ever been to a comic shop and you've heard the term run, you're probably wondering, hey, what's a run? I've heard it said before, I don't understand what it is. To put it simply, a run is how long a writer or an artist has stayed on a book. For example, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did a run together of the Fantastic Four for over 100 issues. They were on the book for over 100 issues, etc., etc., you know. Another example, Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America lasted, you know, etc., etc. So, speaking of that, segue, we are going to look at Captain America the Winter Soldier by Ed Brubaker. Ed Brubaker's run on Captain America is one of the best runs that I've ever read of all time. It's amazing, it's great stuff, and he does so much with the character. Before Ed Brubaker came into this run, people kind of saw his Captain America as this little Boy Scout. You know, he played for the military, he didn't do much. You know, he's just, oh, he's pro-American, yada, 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 which is actually wrong. It's not really it was just, he was stuck in a big stereotype for a long time that just really did not fit the character. I really didn't like that as well, because Captain America doesn't really necessarily stand for America. He stands for freedom and equality, which is something that Ed Brubaker took to this book and extended on it. He also turned this book into a spy story, because he had Captain America working for S.H.I.E.L.D. and going around the world. And on top of it, he introduces the Winter Soldier. Yes, the Winter Soldier from the movie, where he brings back Bucky Barnes, a character who has long thought been dead. And the old saying used to be, there are certain characters you just cannot bring back to life, one of them being Uncle Ben and Bucky Barnes. Brubaker did the impossible. He brought him back and he made him awesome by turning him into this Russian assassin called the Winter Soldier. If you haven't read Ed Brubaker's run, really go check it out. It is the great stuff. It is the stuff of legends. It is fantastic stuff. I really recommend you do check this out. Moving on, we are going to look at Alan Moore's Swamp Thing. Yes, Alan Moore is a name that is synonymous in comics, both good and bad. A lot of people have some resentment towards Moore, especially in the recent years. They feel he's kind of gotten, you know, a little bit far up his own butt. And to a certain extent, I do understand that, you know, but the guy, you got to respect his writing. The man's writing is, it's the stuff of legends for a reason, because he can take a character and he expands upon it. He just brings all the qualities and all the things that you wouldn't necessarily think about. He brings it into a character. It's hard to explain really with his writing, but what he did with Swamp Thing is that he took a character that was originally created by Len Wein and he blew it up. He basically said, okay, let's kind of examine what would happen if this guy who was turned into this kind of like swamp-like creature, how would he feel? How would he move around? How would it feel to have his larynx be turned into wood and everything? And it shows actually in the bubbles of the text, because in the bubbles of the text, Swamp Thing, there are pauses. He will say a word, and then it'll be ... and then he'll say another like 3 or 4 words, ... and that's because it's a representation of his larynx and made out of wood, and how he struggles to talk. It's really interesting stuff. He also introduces and plays with the concept of kind of like the Frankenstein story, and how he falls in love with this character, Abigail, who is destined to be kind of his downfall in a way. And I'm not going to get too far into that. I will just say this, that he does so much with this run, and this is actually part of the reason why we do have the Vertigo line, because in the story it was basically like, oh, you are basically having a plant have a relationship with a woman. Yeah, we can't do this in regular DC line. Let's, you know, throw this into the Vertigo line. Let's create a new line for this kind of crazy stuff. It was really this and Sandman. Also, what's really good about this is that they introduce the character of Constantine. John Constantine's first introduction actually starts in this series, and it is really cool stuff. Stuff that later on Jamie Delano in his run, starting with Hellblazer, would kind of expand upon, but I don't really care for Delano's run on Hellblazer, to be honest with you. I think Garth Ennis, for me, did a better job with John Constantine than Delano, even though Delano laid the groundwork for that, but that's later on. Definitely check this out. I really recommend you do. If you haven't read this, unfortunately, the hardcovers are out of print, and they are starting to kind of really become like high market value stuff. It'll cost you a pretty penny to get a lot of this stuff. I really do hope, though, that DC kind of comes to their senses and one day does make an omnibus about the full run. So definitely check that out. Next, we have the Jeff Johns Green Lantern run. Yes, the entirety of Jeff Johns Green Lantern. It is a must-read all the way through to the New 52. I adore Jeff Johns' run on the character. He brings back Hal Jordan. He brings back the Green Lantern Corps. He makes Sinestro this really crazy villain. He introduces different types of lanterns. He makes Black Hand a threat. There is so much to be said about Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run that it is, I can't even fit it in this video, really. It is the stuff that you really should go out and pick up if you are a fan of a space opera. I do have a reading order list in my channel, so if you haven't checked that out, I really do recommend you do. It is going to take you a long time to get through all of it, but trust me when I say that it is one of the best modern day runs of all time if you are fans of space opera. So definitely recommend this out. Just revolutionary stuff. I cannot explain this, and I cannot give this enough due. So moving on, we are going to go with Daredevil by Brian Michael Bendis. Daredevil at the time was a character that he wasn't doing terrible, you know, but he wasn't the... After Frank Miller, there were a few runs that were really good and everything like that. And there were people that they took the reins of Daredevil and they worked with him and they did, you know, good stuff. Kevin Smith and all that stuff. But it was really Brian Michael Bendis that came to this point in the early 2000s and said, let's make Daredevil a more hard-boiled crime book. And let's kick him down a dark alley because really this stuff gets brutal. And it also has one of my favorite moments in all of Daredevil's history where basically Power Man, what was his name? Iron Fist, SpiderMan, Power Man, they all have to come up to Daredevil and go, dude, you need to tone it down. You have just unleashed the most savage beating the war of crime on New York that we have ever seen. Tone it down, man. Seriously, it is rough. Because basically what happens is that he has a nervous breakdown, he freaks out, and he just unleashes the most savage beating on New York and basically proclaims himself as the Kingpin of New York. Yes, he takes over Kingpin's spot in one of the most brutal beatings that I have ever seen on the character Kingpin. To top it off, he did most of this run with Alex Maleev, and the art in this is just, oh my gosh. Alex Maleev, dude, it is just some of the stuff he paints in this is beautiful. It's very scratchy, it's very dark and noir-esque, and it's just, oh, so good. So good. I really do love this. This is the stuff that up until Mark Waid, people were really trying to emulate. Again, after this came Brubaker, and he kind of followed up on the run. And then we had Shadowland, which you don't want to read Shadowland. Shadowland was garbage. All right, time to give DC some love. I'm going to go with Animal Man by Grant Morrison. If you have not read Grant Morrison's run on Animal Man, I do recommend you check it out. It is great stuff. He really expands upon the concept of what it's like to be a superhero and has a family. Something that, unfortunately, the New 52 has decided, no, we don't want families in the New 52. The superheroes cannot have families. They can't be married, yada, 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 yada. Whatever. That's just garbage in my opinion because you can get some great stories out of this stuff. And Grant Morrison proves it because he plays with the dynamic of a family. What is it like to be a superhero and have a family, have a son, have a daughter, and things like that? Stuff that Jeff Lemire actually in his Animal Man run in the New 52 went on to play with. It all came really out of here. And I really do like this. It's also a very heavily environmental book. It deals with the fact that there was a lot of animal testing going on at the time that this was released. And he deals a lot with existentialism and the meaning of life and what it's like to, you know, deal with your creator and experience meeting him and all that. I'm not going to give anything else away except there's an issue in here that Animal Man kind of goes on a peyote trip. And it's really interesting stuff. I really do recommend you check this out simply because there is so much love and care for it. And there is a page turn in here that will make you go, you know, just one of those that'll like set you back a little bit if you've never kind of read it. Kind of, that moment kind of went, blew my mind a little bit, which Grant Morrison tends to do in his writing. Definitely recommend check out that. And to finish this off, I'm going to go with, yes, the Stan Lee and Steve Ditko run on Amazing Spider-Man. The beginning of Spider-Man. If you have never read Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's run on Spider-Man, you really do owe it to yourself. This is great stuff. It's fun. It's of the time. If you're wondering where Peter Parker came from or where some of his classic villains came from, it's all from here. Steve Ditko is a master artist who unfortunately has actually become kind of a recluse in these past few years. He doesn't go to cons. He doesn't do anything like that. There was actually a really great documentary, if you could find it online, where Neil Gaiman actually goes looking for Steve Ditko with another interviewer, and they actually find him. But in order to actually meet Ditko, they can't even film him. They can't even bring the camera upstairs or anything like that, and you just get the experience of what it was like to meet him. I really do wish that I would like to see Steve Ditko come back a little bit. Unfortunately, you know, the guy's really old, so. But in this run, you are getting the introduction of Electro. You're getting the introduction of the Green Goblin, Mysterio, Scorpion, the Vulture, Dr. Octopus. I can keep going on and on and on about this, really. It is just stuff that is great. And if you've ever been a fan of Spider-Man, you really do owe it to yourself to come back and check this out. It is really great stuff. Really, really, really. It is a bit dated, though. You're going to see some of the dialogue and everything, but that's just of the time. Again, this is stuff that was written in probably the 60s and the late 60s, early 70s. So, but yeah, really do recommend you check this out if you have not read it. Really great stuff. Plus, Kraven the Hunter is actually in here. So, and that concludes my favorite runs of all time. If you have a request video or if you have any comments or anything like that, and if this is your first time looking at this video, I really recommend, I hope you check out my other stuff. But like I said, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. And of course, if you have a request video, put it down there. Bye.